Hello, everybody. I'm going to shut that intro off. I'm not sure of the internet at the moment. I'm on Starlink. We're literally just back. We just walked through the door, and Starlink's not doing what it's meant to be doing. We lent it to the marina for a while for people to download stuff in Panama, and I'm not sure what's going on, but it's fluctuating a lot. So if you lose me, never mind. I thought since I got here, been quite a bit of happening. Been traveling, flying here, there, and everywhere, and then the train, and we're back. And Jane says it is working, so that's okay. Anyway, good to be back in La Sable d'Olonne. It's a great part of the world, good people, good things happening. So it's dark out there, although the day went until 7:30, which is kind of cool. And it's now 9 o'clock here. So anyway, yeah, quite a bit happening, and so I just thought, what the heck, would get it done now. I still haven't done the press release yet, but I see some of the media is already picking up stories off the live and off Facebook, which is kind of nice. Valio did a bit about Peeler, and a few others have got stuff out. We feel as if we're a bit behind, but there's only so much that the two of us can do. So. And it's not groundbreaking news that they set off. So delaying the press release until tomorrow, I don't think is such a big deal anyway. Not super clear. So yeah, I'm down to 2 bars on the internet anyway. All right, so we just get straight into it, and I'll go straight to the tracker and tell you some of the stories that have been going on, and just give you an update on each of the entrants. So you should have the tracker there. This is the currents, because there are some serious currents out from Panama. There's Panama over here, and what we were used to seeing is some of this stuff going on in a mild form coming from Antigua to Colón on the other side. Of course, we made it across to the Pacific, and the fleet is underway. Currently, Popeye and Mike and John are still in Panama. They're not going to leave for another day or so. Gary got underway this morning, so he's pushing out, which is kind of cool. And the others are looking pretty good. They've got around the corner, and they're all having quite a ride. You can see someone there, Ayrton, he's missed out on the free ride. He hasn't looked at the currents and where they are, and so he's driven out of the current already, probably following the run line. But the best thing you can do out of here is do exactly what everyone else is doing and sit in this current to make the most of it. It doesn't go forever, but it's quite substantial. You can see there, you want to be riding all of that. No, you're sticking over here onto the run line. And to put a perspective on it, where it starts to finish, that's 180, 190 miles. So you cannot afford not to be in that current. Now, how fast it's going, could be doing up to 3 knots in here. So if you sit in that for 24 hours, there's 75 miles for free. All right. So yeah, you just do not want to miss that current. But Ayrton had a bit of a drama on, on Tracker as well. He had a situation where the companionway hatch coming down from Antigua to Panama broke a bolt on the hinge, on the main hinge, and he tried to get a replacement hatch, but they don't actually make them, I think, at the moment. That style. So he bought one locally, and it was like a sheet of acrylic for a flush deck hatch, but it didn't have an aluminium frame on it. Anyway, he smashed it already, broke it in half. So he's dodged up something that's going to get him by for now, and have to replace it again when he gets to Marquesas, because it's quite an important aspect to be able to seal the companionway. Anyway, back to this current, you can see it's quite substantial, and that's why you're seeing some of these boat speeds. I was seeing at one point, like the wind's probably dropped off now, but at one point someone, I forget who it was doing 8.5 knots or something. Now they're doing roughly around 7 knots. We'll have a look at the wind in a minute, but I'd say the wind's probably dropped off, and they're getting a good 2.5 knots, maybe higher. And you possibly saw the post from talking about like sailing in a cauldron. It's really strange. It's really weird. Because this will be causing all sorts of little local eddies and bubbling the top, because there's a massive movement of water there, and it's helping them a lot. So that's kind of cool. Kerry left sometime late last night. He was about 35. Let's just see where he is in relation to, I'm going to use the ruler. because it's a long way to the finish in relation to Renaud. Here's Renaud. Okay, boom, boom. I'll build that up, and if we post a distance now, I'll go bow to, oh no, I'll go stern to stern. I'll go transom to transom. That's right on Renaud's transom, and there's right on, excuse me, Kerry's transom, 70 miles. So Kerry is currently 70 miles behind his fun arch rival, Renaud. And he'll be working hard over the next 4,000 miles to peg that back, I can assure you. He sort of didn't talk much about the fact that he was until departure, because he got smashed up pretty badly, got a lot of water down below, damaged bits and pieces, had to modify, he wanted to modify his wind vane, so he spent quite a bit of time on that, setting up the new panels, and so it goes. You know, there was a lot of things for him to do. It wasn't a factor of anything to do with transport and late. He wanted to be one of the last ones across because it was easier to work on the boat on the other side. So that was what was happening there. Gary was a situation where he had work to do, so he wasn't ready to go, and he's not stressed at all. He's back in the hunt. He's got a green card and happy as. Popeye is the only one that didn't actually get a green card because he didn't want it in the end. He's decided to cruise his way towards Fiji, and then he's more or less suggested he will head from Fiji across in a fashion over towards Australia and probably not continue. John, however, has a green card, and he's just hanging out with his father at the moment. Give him a hand, and they'll set off together. So technically, John's still racing, but let's wait and see. There'll be a bit of a pull when all of the Australians get to Fiji, because they're now, after that, they're sailing away from Australia. So let's wait and see. If you follow the interviews that I did with the guys, you'll see I asked them the question, what's it going to be like to sail past Australia? And Gary said, it's going to be pretty tough. I'm not sure. Let's wait and see, one step at a time. But I'm pretty sure Gary will continue because he's very determined and he's settling into the boat. Eric and Holiday Dam, I don't think that's an issue at all. Eric is solid as a rock. He's like the quintessential Aussie that's determined. He knows what he's doing. He knows exactly why he's there, and he knows what he wants to do. So Eric's going, and I think it'll be a bit the same for Holiday Dan as well. He'll be on a roll, so that covers the 5 Aussies. And the rest of them, they're all sailing. They're currently still sailing away from home. But once you get to Fiji, then even though you're not halfway, you feel as if you're heading back towards Europe. So there's a big incentive for them all to keep going. So it's a little bit different. And it does play on people's minds, I tell you. Even with Mark Sinclair on Coconut, on Coconut, he was having issues. And by the time he wanted to stop just for a short few days to sort some stuff out in Adelaide, but he never took off again until about a year later, and then continued the last half of his journey. Anyway, so having seen this current, I'm going to go back to the wind and that'll give us an idea. But if you're watching Ayrton, you better get down to the south a little bit. You're missing out on a free ride. You cannot afford to miss that current. Pila's right on the edge of it too. I hope she knows where that is because, it'll be interesting to see where they're going to go on the weather. In fact, we'll come back to the wind because there is an argument to say you should get down south rather than following the run line. That's where you got to go after 4,000 miles or something. But it's all about meeting up with the trades, and that's going to be the deciding factor. So I will come down here and we'll come back to the wind, and let's see what's happening here. It's a little bit different. Boom. Okay, so you can see there's very little wind. So they're probably half their boat speed would be the current. I'm pretty confident in saying that. I mean, there's only 10 to 15 in here. They have their kites up, so that would push them at 5. But they're all doing, there's 7 knots. I'll walk through them one at a time. So Kerry, just in the wind band, doing 6 knots and just going to the current as well. 92 miles in the last 24 hours. Would have been out there in 24 hours. So I forget the exact time he left. We didn't see it because we were in the air, and that could be a little bit incorrect. But anyway, there it is. Dan Turk, Dan Turk. Now, Dan had a bit of a drama last night. I'll come back to that in a minute. He had to request assistance, and that assistance was given by Argo, who had to return and get him out of trouble. So I'll talk about that at the end. And he's now currently underway. So that will have ramifications. Argo will get given time, and Dan will suffer a penalty because there is no assistance allowed. But anyway, I'll come back to that. So quite happy at the moment by the look. No damage, by the way. 7 knots, that's pretty cool. And the last 24 hours, 114 miles. Tracker over there, 5.1 knots, not getting the current, but he did 115 miles, so that's all right. And then Josh doing 115 miles. They got away 2 hours later. You might have seen the post where Josh and Jasmine left about the same time. Jasmine's last job to do was to get a splice done to make a continuous loop line for one of her asymmetric reefing drums. It's a continuous line. You've got to splice it end for end to join it together seamlessly. And Kerry did that for us. So Kerry was desperate to get out, but there they were. That's one of the photos you may have seen in the photo gallery. Kerry sitting there doing the splice for Jasmine so she could get going. Pretty much as soon as he'd done that, Jasmine took off as well. And also Josh had been helping Jasmine on. There's a lot of help going in all over the place. So that was pretty cool. And Jazz is doing okay. 7.3 knots, absolutely flying in that breeze band. So she's getting the 10 to 15 knots as well, sailing with a new spinnaker maybe, and doing 113 mile days. So everything's settled there for sure. Coconut, a bit all over the place, sailing around the thing. He's back in the current, so he's making pretty good time. We're not getting a time 24 hour on him, but 7 knots. He'll be in the bunch all the way, I reckon. Eric, 6.9 knots, 121 mile day. Eric's keen. There's a few things going on here. Jasmine is keen to perform. Eric is keen to perform. He's onto it now. He's settled into his boat. Jacob, he's doing 7 knots as well, 116 mile day. He's not a light boat, got lots of water, but he's doing okay. Christian is right up there, and yet he did delay. He had to go back a mile and a half or something to assist Dan, and then another mile and a half back again. So that took a bit of time. It was under motor, but anyway, doing 7.3 knots, 117 mile day. So they're all the groups hanging in together. Adam War, has he got the crown? No, that means the timings are wrong. Okay, so this is 2000 UTC. I'm not sure why he's got the crown because the others are in front of him. 121 mile days. I'm just going to Renaud's interview there in Cologne. If we have, you want to listen to what he's got to say with the weather. Renaud is the one who's Mr. Expert, or not expert, Mr. Detail. He's into all the details. He spent a lot of time analysing the weather, making his tactics, and he didn't hide it either. He freely spoke about it. I said I wouldn't put it up until after the start, but he didn't care. But now I forget whether I put it up. If it's not up, we'll put it up tomorrow. We put Kerry's up today. And that was an interesting conversation as well. So there's lots of useful information in there if you're thinking about MGR, that's for sure. And it also gets to know them. I try to delve deep into who they are and what their background is on some of those ones. Not too deep, but there's some interesting information coming out. So anyway, Adam's technically leading at the moment. As I said, 6.9 knots. In that breeze, they're flying. That's pretty cool. Peeler, 106 mile day, 6.8 knots on the edge of the current, and Dan and Renaud on top of each other. Now, Dan has got one bodgy job. He's not got his reefing gear up. He had a good look at it, and he explained what happened. And he would much rather prefer to sail with reefing gear, but he wasn't in a position to make sure it was 100% reliable before he left, so he's gone without it. He's back to Hank Sales, and Renaud is doing what Renaud does, but they are side by side, quite literally. 6353, 6354. So they're only 1 mile apart, but that's distance to the finish on this direction. So both of them doing well. 117, nice breeze. Watch the space; their directions will start to pan out, in the days ahead. Now I'll just come back and have a look at this, and we'll work the weather forward. But in the big picture, I'll put this in here. I'll show you what's going on and where the challenges lie. I won't go too far into it because, but you can see here. You've got the start of the trade winds here. This is the southeast trades, right? And once you get in there, you can ride these trades across. This is sort of like a little bit of mishmash, a bit of everything, right? And so you wouldn't necessarily, you can see there, why would you follow the run line? It wouldn't be the best thing to do. But getting out of here and coming down for the first 4 or 5 days is the challenge, because you can see they're going to get potential headwinds and all sorts of stuff. So it's very tricky. However, 11 of the 15 have all got Starlink, and they can get windy. They can get this track alive as well, but they can also get onto the windy situation, and they can look at what's going to happen with this weather. So I'll just decrease the size, and I'll walk the weather. I'll walk the weather forward a couple of days just to see what they're likely to be getting. Here it's quite good, still following, all right? And then I hit that there, get my auxiliary keyboard in here, and start knocking that across, rightio. So here we go, every 3 hours. Very light winds, but it's still following, going through into the 27th. So it's getting stronger, so that's going to give them a nice push, yeah. So straight away, you can see, if you're watching this, there's no way you'd be going where Trekker's going. So Ayrton, get down here. You really want to be heading southeast and stay in that band. Who knows what's going to happen here, because there's a bit of headwind. But anyway, so that's the 27th. So there's 1 day. It's still holding that little band there, yeah. 27, 28. 28, and before it starts to go, so the 29. So you've got about 3 days. Now 3 days is going to give them about 400 miles or 350. So let's just see where 350 is. That could ride them down here. They could. I think you'd have to go. You'd have to be coming down here. And that can sometimes be a bit tricky, going too far south too quick, but it looks like the way to go. So anyone that's not heading that way, probably not a good idea. While we're doing this, I'll keep it clicking through and just see, hang on, get rid of the distance mark there. Hit that again. Just see 29, 30, and I'll come back here to the big picture now. Just to see, yeah, geez, those trades are very tempting. Very tempting to get an air into the trades. So they may get lucky. They may get down here pretty quickly. This is the equator, of course, going through there. So, you wouldn't want to follow the run line at all. You try and leverage that as quick as you can, get into the trades. First boat's into the trades, then run along about 10 degrees south. That's where it's going to be. And it's going to get cooler as well. As soon as you get down here, you get into these trades. The breeze is coming up from the bottom. So that's the general picture of the game plan. Okay. And let's see. There's a few people have got to do their celestial and stuff along the way. So let's just see what the sun's doing, if they're getting sunburn. It was hot and oppressive and cloudy and humid and horrible for a lot of days in Panama. A lot of them were okay, nice place, but it was very average for some parts of the weather, for getting work done and stuff. It was really challenging. I'm just going to try and get some funny things on here. Okay, let's go clouds. Boom. It's a little bit overcast, not clear, that's for sure. Temperature wise, it's hot. They're in the high 20s. It's actually looking hotter here than it was up in Panama, interestingly. So yeah, they've still got it really hot. and the sea state should be pretty reasonable. Yeah, it's less than 2 meters, so all good stuff. Now, just before we leave, I'll show you the leaderboard. The big change there, which I've mentioned previously, is that it's all about names rather than boats. In fact, here they all are here. Renaud, let's see if they changed his picture. Yeah, they have. He was an Englishman. Ooh, that threw him. Anyway, so now we're just going with names. We're not worried about boat names. You get to know the people a little bit better that way. And currently the leaderboards are a little bit irrelevant because it's a long way to go. As we've said before, showing Adam in the lead, but I would say it's Renaud and Daniel Turner, suggesting 3,000 or 6,350 odd miles to go. That's the direct route down the run line. They're going to sail more than that. They'll probably end up doing, on the way to Fiji, they'll probably go close to 7,500. And remembering that this distance is to the finish line in Fiji, not to the Marquesas, because we're now working on 23 days of stopovers on the 3 ports. The first one, they've got 8 days in the Marquesas, then 7 days in Papeete, and then 8 days in Tonga. And those days will chew up, and you know, the miles are you know, to Fiji, not just to the stages. So that'll all make sense later on. So this is suggesting it. Well, we won't go there because they've got quite fast feeds, but May, and then you've got to add 23 days to that. So that's middle of June. That's about when I reckon most of them will start to get there as well. So you've got 23 days of stopovers. All right, I think that's enough of that. I'll come back here and I'll talk to you about, we've got the bloody questions. Hide messages from the stream. If I hit that, we should lose that. Yes. Okay, so a couple of things that happened. I got the message today from Dan. It was just a WhatsApp message, just reporting in because he did receive some assistance. And in fact, I should go back. I'm going to go back to the tracker and show you where this happened, and it'll make sense a little bit more if I hit that. Yep, there's the tracker. So I come back here, I come over there, I'll get rid of this. I can leave the sea state, I suppose. We just got to start picking it up. Start picking it up, and you'll start to see what happens if I take that off and go back to the picture. Satellite picture. There it is. And if I just make sure we not leave that there, I'm going to hit this. And here's where it played out by the look of it. So you can see, I think you saw where that is. Panama's back up there, and the fleet split. Some went one side of these islands, some went the other. And it's pretty clear to see here, remembering we were getting 4 hourly positions, so you don't see the back and forwards. But this is Dan. This is Dan here, I think it is, the yellow one. And for whatever reason, Dan was heading and planning to head between the gap here, okay, between the islands, quite shallow in here, and there was some currents there, which were, let's just see what, I might be able to call the currents up. So this is the island, right? And effectively what happened is he came in here, and he couldn't use his motor anytime. He was planning to, and as he drifted a little bit close to the headland there, the current got him, was starting to push him in towards danger, quite obviously. And for some reason, his electric outboard went from, I think he said something like about 75% charged battery to basically 0. So he lost the use of his engine, and the current was drifting him onto a severe hazard or whatever. So he called up Argo, who was about 1.5 miles away, and requested assistance. So Argo had to backtrack to come back to him, hook up a tow, and then tow him away from the danger. And then once he was clear of the danger, he let the tow go, and then he carried on. So Dan has officially reported it to me. He would have written up the circumstance in his log, and we'll address that at the end of this leg to Marquesas. And obviously Argo will be given a time compensation to assist his situation. And then we have to address the subject of receiving outside assistance, because you're going to see what happens if the outside assistance wasn't given. It's fair to say Dan would be out of the race, and maybe his boat would be damaged, which is that's how serious it is. Even though it worked out really well, I didn't congratulate him, but I said, "Good job, Dan. You know, he did the right thing. did a good job. No one got into strife. The boat wasn't damaged, and he's back underway. But we have to treat this in the context of the race, and the race very clearly states that there is no form of outside assistance allowed at all. End of story. It's a solo race around the world without assistance. You can get assistance, but you have to anchor. You have to sail in somewhere, anchor, and then someone can come along and give you a hand, and you can take on supplies and things like that. But you cannot get assistance while you're at sea underway. So that'll be left for a decision for later on. But it turned out okay, and that was sometime in the I'm not sure the exact time, but Dan contacted us about 4 or 5 hours ago or something. So anyway, enough of that one. Come back here, and then the situation with John and or Popeye and Mike and John. Popeye's had a big reflection in Panama of what he was doing. He had some issues with their electric outboard as well, and he bought another Mercury, and then he was realizing it's going to be hard for him to sail past Australia, and there's some nice things going on. He was a little bit behind on his work schedule, wasn't likely to get the green card, and he didn't really care anyway, and so he's more or less said that's it. He's going to cruise along and head towards Fiji. You probably saw his comments when we were leaving, so he's happy. And John got his green card. He's still racing, and he'll reserve the final outcome to when he, going forward. So he hasn't said he's not racing all around the world, but he's just hanging out with his dad at the moment. Help them get underway, and they'll be off pretty soon. Gary was an easy one. He just wasn't quite ready, but he's in the hunt. He's now gone, so that was pretty cool. A happy chappy was Pila. Pila, she's on top of the world at the moment. She's got some good friends supporting her. She was able to buy the Hydrovane and get it installed and get it tested. She loves it. And I think there's some advantages now with the Hydrovane that's pretty obvious if you link the two together. If you do a side mount and link the rudders so they work in unison 100% of the time, there might be some performance advantages there. It's hard to pin it down, because you don't want to say, oh, that's the reason Renaud's up front. It's not that at all. It's boat preparation, sailor, everything, but maybe the wind vane is assisting, because you've got these two rudders in there. And I think I mentioned it on air before when I realised the ramifications of that well and truly following Renaud as the first boat across the isthmus towing on the highway. It was very slow. It was a 3-hour trip. I'm just staring at those two rudders for 3 hours, looking and imagining them sailing in the water, thinking, crikeys. It's not a twin rudder situation, but it really has an interesting impact, I think. So anyway, she's happy. She's got the Hydrovane, and she's got a new sail, and she just felt great. She had real challenges on the first leg that some people might not have picked up with. It was a combination of possible food allergy and also extreme nerves and bits and pieces. But either way, that retarded her performance for sure in the first leg from Antigua to Panama. But now she's onto it, bang. So we're all hopeful that she's going to get out there and give the boys a run for their money, because she is a good sailor. There's no question. She's been working hard on her boat. It looked very organised. There was a couple of photos I took of her boat on that compilation gallery there, if you've seen that. She's really into it now, so let's wait and see what happens. And Dan, as much as he didn't get his furling gear there, he's pretty relaxed as well. He's very relaxed. He knows the boat now, very keen to this leg, so that's cool. Eric's the same. Well, I'm just giving you the feeling of the way I saw the entrance. Jacob's Jacob, never stop laughing, never stop being a silly bugger, having a lot of fun. Not rolling in dough, but he's doing okay. He's right there. So that's cool. Who else we got there? Argo, yeah, Argo's really. I could sense anyway. It's not detracting at all. What's that doing there? Hide messages from the stream. Keep popping up. I can't get rid of them. But sometimes he was a bit nervous, like all sailors, at the start of a leg. He was looking a bit, not confused, but a few times I saw him, he was challenged with the temperature and the heat and the work on the other side, on the Atlantic side of the Atlantic, and a little bit down there for a while, but he drove through that, and that's to be expected. Sometimes you think it's all, fluffy and light and fun, but sometimes it's a lot of reflection. This is a big deal, what's going on now. And by the time we came to start day, he's great. He's right into it. So that's cool. I think Josh was the big electrical repairer. He was always busy working on other people's boats, but always relaxed. He could have left straight away, but I think he was basically giving Jasmine some help as well. So, and a bit of moral support there as well, because Jasmine was a little bit down, not being quite ready to get out. No, she wasn't down, but I'm just saying she would have much preferred to be here on the start line. She wasn't. She couldn't. And I got this sense that Josh was maybe giving her a bit of moral support. So they took off together, and that's cool. Who else we got there? Renaud's just Renaud. He's into it. Very focused. Very focused. And I've missed a few people, but I can't think there. Anyway, yeah, Dan. We've got Holiday Dan, and we've got Dan, and he says Canada Dan. So we call him, he's Canadan instead of Holiday Dan. But anyway, yeah, he's okay. He had all his work jobs done and bits and pieces. So it's unfortunate what happened. We'll see. We'll get the full report later on, but they did a good job. They're all underway. So I think that's about it. It's late at night, so I'll come straight to the questions now, and we'll see how it goes. Jane's there too. Hi, bugger off. Okay. G'day, Adrian. Yep, I'm still here. Clear now, Rachel. Good evening, Rachel. There's a few people. Graham, hi, Don. Great to see you. Yep. Alma. So what's the max hull speed again? Oh, it's irrelevant. Max hull speed's totally irrelevant. Well, it's not irrelevant. If you use the square root of the waterline length and so on, I think it's about, I don't know why that keeps popping up. I think it must, well, I've got to work it out, but it must be about 4.8 knots or something like that. I'd have to work it out. I should have it in my head, but I never worry about it because it's easy with a small boat to go over your maximum theoretical hull speed. The smaller the boat, the less relevant it is. The longer the boat, the more relevant it is, right? Especially if it's a full displacement boat. But the 580 is very much, it's not an on the top of the water boat, but it's not a full heavy displacement. Although now some of them are really bloody heavy because they got all the water on board. And I took a lot of photos. You'll see they look like boring photos, but I did it specifically to show you where the chine is. They're just a sideways shot that you might not even see the bow of the stern, but you can start to compare who's the heaviest boat or heavier boats because of where the chine fits in the thing. So that's it there. But I think we'll still see the average speeds. I reckon they'll all make 100 miles a day easy because they're going to be chumping out heaps more than that when they get the trades. They'll be doing the 120s again. So I've got to get rid of this bloody message. It just keeps popping up. Anyway, I'm not sure what's doing that. Okay. I think I'm going to leave these bloody hatches. No, not hatches. The questions there. I don't know why they come up. I can't get rid of it. As soon as I delete it, the top it goes again. So Canada and timestamp seems off. He should be further along. Yeah, could be. That's happening. I've sent a message to YB that a couple of them have been a few hours late every time. But anyway, that's cool. It's a bit awkward seeing my comment all the time in giant letters. Yeah, there you go. But I'm deleting it, not deleting the comment, but I'm knocking it off, and there's something going wrong with the process there. Anyway, I'll get through the questions and then I can bugger off. Canada then, timestamps off. Don, you put comments on the screen again. No, I didn't. It's just popped up by itself. I keep taking them out. Love how they help each other. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Good to see them out in the wind. Looks a bit patchy there. Yep. Which Starlink subscription are you using, Don and Jane? Or we're just using the, it's about 7 September or something. The way that Starlink were doing it, they're getting ready for an IPO, to float the big thing, all around the world, and you can buy shares in the company and things like that. So they're trying to simplify it. And we heard just in the last week or so that all these things, because you can have a coastal roaming one, but then you can get an add-on ocean subscription, or you can get the full ocean subscription, and it just gets very like the way mobile phones used to be. And that's all changing. So it's a period of flux again for the next few weeks, because they want to settle it down and make it very simple by the time they do the big share float, and hopefully they get more. And that could work out well for sailors. And I'll tell you why. Because the majority of people are non-sailors. They won't be the marine subscription, but they'll mix them all in with just the standard subscriptions. So what you might see is that the actual real cost of the maritime side will be subsidised by the 50 times more people that are getting the terrestrial accounts and so on. So because or even after Marquises, it's much, much less. But there's no easy answer. It's just the way the mobile phones used to be, where you could never work out what you're paying for and what you get, or compare it to anyone else. Don, you may have mentioned already about John and Popeye. Have they got a secret plan? No secret plans. Just enjoy the ride. They built their boats. They don't want to rush through the Pacific, but they certainly want to try and be there in Fiji before the boats take off, because that could be the final goodbye or final farewell for Popeye. He may then head south or head over to New Caledonia and then over to Queensland and back down. So who knows? And John's just reserving everything. He's still sort of technically racing. Joey, Hope Canada Dan is not omitted from the race. No, I've already had a quick think about it. I've got to talk. I have two other people I refer this stuff to, but it's a pretty serious breach, you might say, because as I mentioned, if he didn't get outside assistance, he wouldn't be in the race probably any longer. He's got outside assistance. He's still in the race, which is a good thing. And we've just got to address that. There's no set penalty in the notice of race that specifically refers to a first offence with outside assistance and things like that. So we'll have to make a decision on that. But anyway, he won't be out of the race, that's for sure. But I think it might be a heavy penalty, because you can't. It would be remiss of an organiser to have a situation where an entrant seeks outside assistance and you give them a 2-day time penalty or something, and then they go on and they win the race, because the other guys who've never had outside assistance will be thinking, what the bloody hell? He wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for that, blah, 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 blah. So I don't want to preempt anything, but it is a serious hiccup on the rules of the race. So, but as I say, they did a good job, and I complimented them. I said that was a very good thing to do, blah, blah, blah. So let's wait and see. Please like to reward this fabulous coverage, Don James. Amazing. Thanks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jonathan's my man. I'm going to have to give you another hat. Like and subscribe. We've pushed through 7,000 on Facebook, and we're still keen to keep pushing up on the YouTube. So if you haven't liked us, please like us, and please comment and things like that, because it's all comes up in the numbers later on. We do okay. So and we appreciate the support. It's fantastic. Thanks. Go Peeler. Yeah, I'm really hanging out for Peeler. I know she showed in the Transat qualifier, the 600-mile job to Thingo, that she can sail well, and she's strong. She's the one that's been up. She's been up more masts at the 580 than anyone else. She's amazing, because she's not a young girl. She's a young woman. I'll let you work out the age. But boy, she's right up there. She's fantastic. So I'm very impressed. Thanks, Peter. Adrian, is struggling for money, financial support? Oh, they all are. Me too. Everyone would like more money. And it's interesting, people will reflect on what it's actually the real cost of what's going on. We're all covering new ground going around the world like this, but it is adding up, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. As an example, Jacob, who's not loaded, he's doing okay, and he's there, and he's not complaining. But he was intending to anchor on the other side because it was pretty expensive. Plaita Marina were really good. It was going to cost about €80 US a day because they had a minimum rate of 40. And the lady there who was really good, she said, look, I'll try and do a deal. I said, I think it'll probably give you 20% or something. So it was going to go down to about $70 a day. And in the end, she dropped it to $50 a day, which was really good. But for someone with a little boat that's cruising a lot of money, when you're there for a week, $50 a day, it all adds up. So no complaints. They're very happy. And Plaita were very helpful. And same thing on the other side to a degree, but anyway, it adds up, $850 across the paddock for the boats, haul out in on the Atlantic side, and then your food and bits and pieces. It's certainly adding up. But I think they're all happy to get sponsors and support and things like that. So anyway, Jasmine mentioned something about 3 reefs in her sail overnight in the storm. What is a reef? A reef is when you decrease the sail area. You just you lower it down a bit and pull a slab out. That's 1 reef, and then you do the same again, 2 reefs and 3 reefs. I haven't read her latest post. I've literally turned on here as soon as we walked in the door. So yeah, decreasing the sail. So there would have been possibly some thunderstorms. There's very hot water there, and all sorts of things. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the latest bits. So, Shannon, love, Josh, Carly Ocean Racing. This is fun to watch. The light show for the sky sounded pretty intense last night. Okay, so they're putting posts up and talking about all the action last night, which I haven't read yet. So, sounded like pretty interesting stuff for sure. Okay, what's up with Ayrton's hatch? He broke it. I didn't like the one that he replaced it with because it's one of those ones. It's just a sheet of acrylic, like 10 or 12 mil acrylic with the support struts and some dog down. So technically, it's sealed onto a gasket. And it's pretty ripe. It's got no metal frame at all. It's just a bit of acrylic. And he sent a photo and said, "Holy dooly, the thing's smashed in half straight away." So he might have pushed it a bit too far or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure, but it wasn't a good outcome. That's for certain. So now he's got to put a new hatch on, and will insist that it goes on in Marquises. So we'll try and help Azur sort out another one and get it to him. Excuse me. How easy to fix your mast lights while at sea? Not easy, but we have a requirement to have masthead navigation lights and deck lights and so on. So there's backups. Plus they've got their little red and yellow flashing light as a head turner. Heidi, they all appreciate the donations and support from sponsors and individual donations. Skook and Just Golly GoFundMe says thank you to all. Yeah, it's all little bits and pieces, Theoretical hull speed. Oh, here we go. 1.34 by the square root of the waterline length in feet. These babies playing. Well, come on, Jonathan. Come on. What was it then? I never worry about it, but 1.34 times the square root of the waterline length in feet. So if you can work that out and pop it up at the end of this before we sign off, everyone will know then. Me too. So, but they do play and they surf pretty easy. They're pretty flat. It's just a double chine arrangement. So it's a really cool design. Genesis produced a really nice boat for sure. Starling had to censor the answer to that question, and I'm not sure what that was. Anyway, Renault's boat was front heavy at the start yesterday. What's the philosophy behind that? It's interesting. There's 2 parts to that, and I brought it up when I spoke to him. So, geez, it's pretty obvious. He's bowed down. When I left on my Transat, I could sense that I was bowed down, and I tried to avoid that to a degree because it makes it very difficult to steer. You know that when you go on the bow to do something up on the bow, the boat goes down and cheeses all over the place. However, Renault's hand steering a lot, so he's not a little fella, but he's not a big fella. But when he's sitting at the back, that weighs the boat down a bit as well. And the other thing is we're a squared off transom, so the hull doesn't run clean. But that's a good thing because you can confuse the ocean, right? If you've got a square transom and then a flat bit so that it's squared off, the boat's pushing down in the water. Now, when you're going slow in light weather, you get turbulence on the back. And that turbulence is not a good thing. You're dragging the bum. But as soon as you get past about sort of 5 knots, 6 knots, the water starts to run off clean off the hull. And it thinks that even though it's not planing, the hull is telling the water that it's actually longer than it really is. And this is something that, because, if we go back to 1990 when I did the BOC, I was working with Adams Radfords on their designs, long, skinny, narrow designs, and we built quite a lot of them. And that was part of one of the tricks, I remember the discussion with Joe Adams, about that whole thing. It doesn't matter if you've got a little bit of turbulence at low speeds with the water tumbling off the back of the boat. As soon as you start moving a bit faster, you're not planing, but when you get to that level, you're starting. The water starts to think the hull is longer than it is, so the maximum theoretical hull speed gets. You get stuff for free. So, and I think Renaud's just trying to lift the bum out of the water a bit as well, stop that drag. But anyway, it's a conscious effort by Renaud to be bow down trim. So, who left with the most water? I look at all the bits I asked. Most of them I couldn't tell you. I worked it out. Someone said they had about 180 litres. I forget who that was. How many days they're hoping to get there? It could be anywhere between 45 and 55 days. They could do it in 40 days or less. Just depends how quickly they can get into trades and how well they can ride the trades across. So that's about it. Okay, I think we're done. So we'll see how we go. I with this now going forward, I'm not going to guarantee a tracker every day. If I'm free to do one, we will. If there's stuff happening, then we'll talk about it. Otherwise, it could be every couple of days. And I will eventually settle into a routine of a timeline that's works well for everyone. But at the moment, it's still a bit hard to do because I'm now going to be really busy in the next week doing all sorts of stuff. And Jane's heading to China in 10 days or something. So it's all going to get a bit nuts again. But we're all having fun and we're all enjoying it. And we're happy to see the fleet on their way to the Marquises. So thanks for that, everybody. And we will, if I press this button, we'll see you again tomorrow sometime. See you later.
The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.